So welcome to Madrona Park Natural Area. This is one of the sites that may be lesser known even to locals around Seattle. The entrance to the natural area, also known as the Madrona Woods, can be found directly across from the Spectrum Dance Theater, which is also a historical site in the area. You can find the entrance to the Madrona Woods just by looking for a small space in all the wetland species on the side of the road across from Lake Washington. So, as we enter the trail, there have been some very convenient stairs built in the trail to help for easy access. This is part of the restoration efforts that were started in 1996 by various volunteer groups throughout Seattle, conservation groups, one of the main ones being Friends of Madrona Woods, which are just locals who've lived in the area for long periods of time, who began restoration, and the restoration continues to this day. So as you can see at the entrance of the Madrona Park Trail, the Madrona Woods, we have some western red cedar trees. I like to point these out because it's one of the only clusters of the western red cedar that we'll find. They dwindle in number as we head up the trail. Here we have some sedges, which are a very strong indication of water nearby. If you can hear the creek right behind me, that's one of the two creeks that run through the Madrona Woods. So this creek was also part of the restoration efforts that was used to increase the life of the native species in the area, because prior to human introduction of invasive species that took over this area before restoration, there was believed to be water that ran through this area and is essential for the native species of this particular forest. Get a shot over here of these two birds. We have some stellar jays that are very frequent to this area. You can recognize their call by sounding almost like a baby crow. You may not be able to tell from this distance, but when you look at them, they have a very powerful blue tint, almost like a dark blue, so they won't look like a blue jay, but they are very common in this area and usually always in small groups, never alone. So if you hear that call, that is the stellar jay of the Madrona Woods. Be ready for some steep climbs up these stairs when you get to the Madrona Woods. This is the landscape, the natural landscape of the area. This is how the creeks are able to run down and into Lake Washington. So that's just part of the walk, part of the trail walk. Down here we have some more snowberry. There's going to be a lot of snowberry along your trail walk from beginning on up. As we get higher up away from the lake, the species of plants start to change. So we do have a couple of horsetails up here, but definitely not as many as we're down near the creek. We're getting into the Pacific madrones of the area. We have some big leaf maples behind me, and this is also where the western red cedars start to diminish in number as well. Down here we've got some fungus, a mushroom. I do not know what kind it is, but this is an idea of if you are looking for fungus in the area, this is where you can plan to find it, would be Just under the shaded areas, there's a lot of places for mushrooms and lichens to find the habitat that they need individually. So there's going to be a lot of shade up here, especially in the summer when the canopy gets covered in, and the moisture just from being so close to the lake, in addition to the creek, you'll be able to find a lot of different mushrooms in this area. So we've reached the top of our climb up the stairs in the Madrona Woods. Up here, you can start to see some Douglas fir trees. The big leaf maple population increases pretty dramatically, and some of the Pacific madrones that are native to this area. Everything really starts to dry out up here, and it feels more, you can even feel it when you're breathing. The air is a little drier, a little less moist as it is down near the creek, but still all the same woods. As you may be able to hear behind me, this is one of the better spots for bird watchers coming to the Madrona Woods. So you're not going to be able to hear or see as many bird species down near the water as you are when you get up higher into the trail. So one of the challenges with that as well, though, is that because the natural area has had such a successful restoration and is so thick and the canopy is so dense, and it can be hard to see the birds that you may be looking for. It's a great place to hear them all around you, but spotting them might be a different story. But if you stick around long enough, you should be able to easily find some song sparrows. Bald eagles are coming in and out throughout the day. There's one nesting now in a Douglas fir just a few yards up. You can find a lot of chickadees, spotted towhees, crows, bush tits in the area, the Steller's jays that we've seen earlier, woodpeckers, all pretty consistently in this area, which is great. So you don't have to come at a specific time to be able to see them, or hope to see most birds in passing. A lot of them are in the area while it's warm. So it's a great place to sit and listen and identify birds that way as well. Even if you weren't able to see them, it's always got some great background music with bird songs. So this is the area that I spent the most time in Madrona Woods. This was my observation site that looks like an entirely different world than it did when I first came in. So you had a red flowering currant here, and that was about it as far as plant life walking into this area. One of the great things that I noticed first about this area and that attracted me to want to sit here and do my observation is the perfect bench slash fallen tree that was cut underneath the western hemlock. So most days that I came out, it was really sunny, it was really beautiful, and to be able to sit under the tree and write a journal and listen and look around for different species, it's a great place to come and sit quietly while you're on your walk, or even if you just wanted a particular place to come have a seat and do some writing or reading in the Madrona Woods. So this is my observation site. It's much fuller now than it was when I first started coming, which is great. It just goes to show if you go back to one spot in nature long enough, it will be constantly changing. As I've been changing in this class, learning more and more about natural history. In this area in particular, I've gotten to watch the red flowering currant bloom and disappear. I've got to see a lot of bleeding hearts bloom and disappear. And now we have the thimbleberry over here in bloom. So everything has its time to flower. So this is one of the older big leaf maples in the Madrona Woods. It's looking like it's nearing the end of its natural life. It may have been one of the first ones in the area. But as you can see, it's already sustaining a lot of life on its own. So we've got a lot of moss that goes about halfway around the tree. We've got different species of lichen and fungi on here. So this has a very velvet texture almost. I don't know what kind it is, but interesting feel. And then we have these mushrooms up here that are known for being found on the sides of trees and have blended in pretty well with the tree itself. So it has like the brown bark texture and color of it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is one of the older trees. It's sustained a lot of life in its lifetime, but probably won't be here for a whole lot longer as the Douglas firs and the western red cedars moved back into the area during restoration. Those trees have a much longer lifespan than the big leaf maples, but they've definitely supplied surface area and life for several organisms during their time here. And in ending our walk through the Madrona Woods, we come back to the creek. This is not the beginning of it, but the upper part of the creek that flows through and down into Lake Washington. As you can see, we have an outburst of all the wetland species that we've seen before. They follow the creek all the way down to the lake, to the marsh area. This kind of runs alongside Spring Street and is a big part of keeping the natural species alive here and keeping the natural species around this area, because this is such a part of their ecosystem. So during restoration, there's been removal of tons and tons of invasive species, Himalayan blackberry and other things, and the planting of the native species to this area. So this creek is a general idea of what the park would have looked like about 200 years ago, before Europeans came in and introduced invasive species to the area. The restoration process is near completion, but as any good ecologist will tell you, the restoration process is never complete. So this was just a small walk through the old main trail of the Madrona Woods. This is not the entire walking trail. If you'd like to see more, please come visit Madrona Park. And it's a beautiful place to visit. It's an excellent place to get involved with volunteer opportunities of maintaining the natural species that are here, maintaining the removal of invasive species, and continuing the restoration process to this area. Thank you for watching.
Life is a journey, not a destination.